India-China Special Representatives for the Border Mechanism, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Minister Wang have met to discuss a range of issues. The duo discussed management of peace and tranquility in the border areas, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary issue. The Russian parliament has passed a new law that could have significant diplomatic implications. The law allows courts to suspend bans on groups designated by Moscow as terrorist organizations, potentially paving the way for Russia to normalize relations with the Afghan Taliban and possibly with Syria's new leadership. Now, this new law enables suspension of bans on groups labeled as terrorists. US President-elect Donald Trump's incoming special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, will travel to Kiev and several other European countries early January. But Kellogg is not planning to visit Moscow during this trip. The meetings are reportedly expected to focus on fact-finding rather than active negotiations. Trump is set to take the office on the 20th of January. He has promised to end the Ukraine war within 24 hours of assuming office, if not earlier. Russian authorities have detained an Uzbek citizen who has confessed to planting and detonating the bomb that killed Lieutenant General Igor Krylov in Moscow a day earlier. The man said that he came to Moscow to carry out an assignment for Ukraine's intelligence services. Ukraine has apparently offered the man a total sum of $100,000 for the murder and for residency in a European country. Russia's head of nuclear, biological and chemical protection defense, Krylov, was killed outside his apartment building along with his assistant when a bomb hidden in an electric scooter went off. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that Israeli forces will remain in a buffer zone along the Syrian border, which was seized after the ousting of Syrian President Assad. Netanyahu emphasized that Israeli troops will stay there until a new arrangement is made that guarantees Israel's security. He also highlighted the strategic importance of Mount Hermon, located inside Syria, about 10 kilometers from the Israel-held Golan Heights. Listen in.
אני פה בשיח חרמון עם שר הביטחון, הרמטכ"ל, אלוף פיקוד צפון, ראש השב"כ ומפקדים בכירים. אנחנו פה בחיתוך מצב כדי להחליט על היערכות ישראל במקום החשוב הזה עד שימצא סידור אחר שמבטיח את ביטחון ישראל.
US President-elect Donald Trump has reiterated his intention to impose reciprocal tariffs in retaliation for the high tariff imposed by New Delhi on import of certain American products. Now, Trump said India and Brazil were among countries that impose high tariffs on certain American products. If India puts taxes on US, America's response will be reciprocal. Canada is stepping up efforts to secure its border. The US-Canadian ministers have revealed a new border security plan on Tuesday, which they had earlier presented to US President-elect Donald Trump's administration. Now, the plan focuses on surveillance, intelligence, and technology. Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc described discussions with Trump's border czar Tom Homan as quote-unquote encouraging. The measures include helicopters, drones, surveillance towers, sniffer dogs, and a joint strike force targeting organized crime. US President-elect Donald Trump has nominated former Senate candidate and ex-footballer Hershel Walker as the US ambassador to the Bahamas. Trump made the announcement in a post on social media platform Truth Social. Now, Walker lost his bio for a US Senate seat in Georgia 2 years ago against Democrat Raphael Warnock. The United States established diplomatic relations with the Bahamas in 1973 to be precise, following its independence from the United Kingdom. House Republicans have wrapped up their probe into the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. They have concluded that former GOP Republican Liz Cheney should be prosecuted. The claim is tied to her role in investigating the attack when then-President Donald Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. The report released on Tuesday reflects the party's efforts to back Trump's push for vengeance. It also targets Cheney and other members of the January 6 committee who Trump believes should face jail time. However, it is unclear if there is a real legal argument behind these allegations. Luigi Mangione, accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has now been indicted for murder in Manhattan. Mangione faces 11 charges, including first-degree murder and murder as an act of terrorism. The indictment alleges that he killed Thompson to, quote-unquote, influence the policy of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion. Listen in.
We are here to announce that Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism for the brazen, targeted, and premeditated shooting of Brian Thompson, who, as you know, was the CEO of United Healthcare.
The Philippines has ratified a new defense pact with Japan that would allow their militaries to deploy on each other's soil amid increased regional tensions with China. The agreement between the two countries was signed in July over shared concerns about China's growing assertiveness in the region and confrontations between Philippine and Chinese naval vessels in contested areas of the South China Sea. In a significant diplomatic development, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is sent to attend a major summit of leading Muslim nations in Egypt this Thursday. This marks the first visit by an Iranian president to Egypt in over a decade. The summit is hosted by Egypt and involves the D8 Organizations for Economic Cooperation, a group that includes Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Turkey. A Filipina woman who had been on death row in Indonesia and who was nearly executed by a firing squad in 2015 has arrived in Manila after long-standing requests from her home country. Mary Jane Fiesta Veloso had spent almost 15 years in a prison for drug trafficking. She won a last-minute reprieve that will lead to her testimony exposing how a criminal syndicate duped her into being an unwitting accomplice and a drug dealer. About 100 relatives and supporters, including her 2 sons, who were only toddlers when she was arrested in 2010, welcomed her with cheer and tears when she arrived at Manila's airport. Gunshots were reported throughout a neighborhood in Baltimore where a car crashed outside a funeral home that appeared to be closed at the time. Baltimore Police confirmed that a shooting and a related fiery car crash killed 1 person and injured at least 9 others. They were rushed to the hospital. Officials didn't provide conditions for the 9 victims who were hospitalized. They said it is not yet clear whether all 9 were shot or not. Investigators, though, believe that the incident was targeted and isolated. Take a listen.
An initial call for service, they spoke of multiple gunshots at that location. Responding officers responded to that location. The first officer that arrived on the scene found a vehicle on its side and in flames. Our officers searched the scene. They found multiple victims and alerted the fire department. The fire department came to the scene and basically took care of the victims at the scene and transported them to the hospital. At this time, we have 10 individuals that have been injured. 1's deceased, 9 were transported to the hospital.
U.S. astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore have been stranded on the International Space Station for months now. NASA has announced that they will remain there until at least late March next year due to a delay in their return mission. Now, Wilmore and Williams arrived at the ISS in June aboard Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. Their mission was originally planned to last only 8 days. However, problems with the Starliner's propulsion system forced NASA to change the plan.